This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Royden Ogletree. And Royden, I'm going to get like the awkwardness out of the way right away.
Yeah.
We stole something from your desk and you didn't even know. We were there on Saturday.
It was my prized possession, as you can tell.
Of the Wasp, what I'm only assuming is a Happy Meal toy.
Yeah, shout out to Angie, who I used to work with, who just gave me this. It was like, here, she's yours now. And then she left. And I was like, all right. But then I got a text from Paul at what? No later than 10 a.m. on a Saturday.
It was probably about 10:02.
Meet our demands or the Wasp gets
10:30. It was about 10:30 because we go 9 to 10:30. We had to, and Royden was not involved in this. And I'm glad for your sake that you weren't.
I'm so glad I wasn't either.
But we on Saturday morning I woke up to several texts from Encore saying the power is out. And my first thought was like, I woke up and I'm like, no, it's not.
And my place is fine.
My fan's on, like my sleep machine, didn't go out. Like, I can see the glow of the air conditioner unit. Like, no, I think I'm okay. And then I looked and it said at 101 Elm and I was like, oh crap. Okay. Well. So
the product of doing this show, by the way, Inside Baseball, just at 9, like having a hard call time at 9 a.m.
Yeah, on Saturday mornings when you're late Fridays and all that. So I get in the car, I come down here, I call Josh Young, your boss, and I was like, hey, we don't have electricity, and I'm gonna go see how bad it is, and I'll see if there's a tech out there, and I'll ask them because I keep getting texts that's going an hour and an hour, and sometimes they put those things there so that people quit calling them, so they're like, look, we know that there's a power outage. We figure by at least 10 or so that it should be back on. But really, they just need the time to go flip the right switch. I come here and Elm is blocked up. Elm is blocked off.
You can't even get here.
I can't even get here. So you had to make a U-turn. And there's trucks, guys up in the bucket, and the power lines are not taut. They're drooping.
Oh,
Garrett got here a little before me, but I can only assume they were a little bit worse when he got here, but they were drooping.
I was more distracted by being blocked off when I turned on the road and immediately had to bust a U-turn illegally than looking where the lines distract. They run
right into those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is that those I'm looking at the lines and we didn't have a storm or anything. So something happened and they just came down sometime.
A really big squirrel.
So then it makes this is maybe the oldest area in Waco, where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, East Waco.
Yeah, it is the oldest part of the town. This is where if you look at the pictures, you go into
this was here before the bridge was here.
Yeah,
not this building, but
but this is here. Yeah, before the bridge was here. This is where the last legal red light district in America was right here.
Fun fact, that is a true statement. Though,
yeah,
it
was last legal. This was Whore Alley.
And it still is.
So, but yeah, this is like if you turn an elm, there's Syphilis Street is right down here.
Yeah.
And the
Gonorrhea corner.
Yeah. The Clap Avenue there's a great restaurant on the Clap Avenue. You guys got to try.
It's called This Burns. Try our spicy wings.
Yeah. But yeah, so it just concerned me. And so we went and we did a show and everything was fine.
I'm sure everything was fine for our TMPs who were probably actively freaking out.
They were calm. You know what? Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm the talent. And so that doesn't mean anything in this room at all.
Yeah.
They don't care. But in news, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Because you, on occasion, have to deal with personalities that are on television every day, and they know that.
They have been on television every day
for a long time, and you get that. Like Ron Burgundy is not a spoof. It's like it is too real.
I had a guy, and I won't say his name, but I had a guy that I worked with who was like in Beaumont, who was a longtime news guy, and you think that news voice thing is a bit. And most people around here, when you listen to them on the news, they sound like what they sound like in real life. His name, I don't want to say his name, but he's like, my name's Royden Ogletree, and I'm here to read the news.
Yeah.
And I was just like, is that real? And then he'd sometimes get off the set and be like, Royden, a hell of a story. And I'm like, this is the longest running bit.
I'll tell you, one of the people I've met in my life here, who was a real life Ron Burgundy. Like he dated a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. He used to be the anchor. You've probably seen old pictures of him at your studio. His name Ron Hall.
Yeah.
And Ron Hall, I knew him in his retirement where he was just doing VOs. Like he would come in and read radio spots and he'd be like, this is Ron Hall for Dealers Lighting. Dealers Lighting, great deals on kitchen, dining room, and more. How about a new chandelier for that dining room?
Yeah.
And like he would do that. And so his voice was fantastic. It was fantastic. And like the first time I met him, I was just sitting like somebody said, hey, can you go record Ron real quick? And I was like, hey, Ron, I'm Paul. And he's like, oh, hello. And I thought he was just kind of like, he said, oh, hello. And I was like, how's the level? And he's like, oh, it's good. And I thought, okay, well, he's putting on his voice because he's about to do like 5 different commercials. He's just going to rattle them out. Rattle them all out in about a take and a half average. Like there was just a couple where he like, like right in the middle and stopped. He was super pro. I mean, unbelievable. But then like after he was done, we went out and he was talking to him. I was like, hey, I'm just new in radio and, nice to meet you. And he's like, oh, well, I was at Channel 10 for 27 years. And, and so I thought, he's just still like,
he's doing a bit. Yeah.
I mean, he's still in character because he's like, he's just off of it. So then he comes in again and he had left he comes in again and reads some spots and then it goes on. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. And finally,
you can drop it.
So finally, like one of the times he came in, he left his reading glasses and like on a desk, and we had a call box downstairs. And so I picked up the phone. It's like, hello, Paul, this is Ron Hall. I believe I left my reading glasses on the desk. Can you see if they're there for me? And I said, oh yeah, sure. I'll bring them on downstairs. And so I go and run him downstairs. And he's like, thank you very much. I'm on my way to lunch. I'm going to have a cheeseburger at Double R. And I was like, oh, this is how you talk all the time. Yeah. Like it has now become you. And, all I could think of was like Ron Burgundy's real.
Yeah.
Well,
it's funny to think about when like they go home, hello, honey, I'd like to make love to you tonight. And they're just like, and somewhere there's a woman or someone that has to be like, okay.
Yeah.
No.
I thought of it. The person I always think of is Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
Because Kelsey Grammer has this really distinct, wonderful voice, and he's still Frasier, but huge fan of Cheers and Frasier and all that. And like, I thought like, oh, this is like, and I see Kelsey Grammer being interviewed for, whatever he's doing. And he's still like, even some of these crap movies he's done, well, I am like, I just hear, I'm listening.
Yeah.
And like, it's,
No, I didn't take this as a cash job.
Yeah. No. I really enjoy
The
it.
straight to DVD film is magnificent.
Yeah.
Anyway, to just all that to say behind baseball, the inside baseball, the amount of like scrambling that y'all had to do to probably get that show on Saturday. I just remembered I texted Josh and I took a screenshot and it was y'all on the desk and I thought, oh, did we just move this? And I didn't hear about it, whatever. And but on YouTube TV, because I think it like threw some things off, it just wants you to know that our show said Mission Unstoppable, Dinosaurs, Dyslexia, and Diseases was the title of the big Baylor Sick'em 365 Baylor sports show.
Well, we did talk about dinosaurs who could not read well. It was a big problem. It's a big problem. You could see, like, if you look at a Tyrannosaurus Rex, like quite often you could see that they were confused.
Yeah, no, there's a charity for that.
Yeah, there are. And
only $10 a day.
I'm very involved in dinosaurs with dyslexia and diseases. If we can wipe out rickets and brontosaurus, I mean that would be something. I don't know if people know how much they suffer from rickets, but it's tragic.
Yeah, just for 20 cents a day, you two can give a stegosaurus a neck brace.
Royden, last week, if you looked at the college football schedule, you would have been like, nah. Yeah,
in fact,
and you did you weren't here last week. You had to go in early to work, but it was one of the things we were going to talk about last week. I think when I sent you, it was like, hey, we're going to the schedule this week's just kind of like, nah.
Yeah.
And there were 2 games against ranked opponents. Both of them sucked out loud.
Yeah.
Texas,
the Tennessee, Florida,
Wall of Michigan,
and the NC State game was they just were overmatched.
It's 51-10.
Yeah.
Like, what are you like?
Grayson McCall looked rattled. He doesn't look like he even almost didn't belong in that level of competition, which is unfortunate because I have a lot of Grayson McCall stock for a long time.
Yeah.
But I mean, Tennessee's defensive line just was like living in his lap. So
it was.
Texas, Michigan.
Michigan.
What happened?
Like that was such. And
Texas fans will say we're good, and I know that, but I'm just saying.
But the thing is, it's not that Texas is good. It's depressing that Michigan is following up a national championship after 27 years of not having one with this.
Yeah,
like it's just. But I do think that that's the reality of college football now, where it's going to be harder and harder to see dynastic teams out there. Now, Georgia's built one because Kirby Smart was ahead of the curve. We'll see what Ohio State does. We'll see. In Texas, I think Steve Sarkisian's probably a little ahead of the curve. But even then, I don't think those things are going to last near as long because all it's going to take is, one big injury or, one whiff at quarterback, like who is ever after Carson Beck. Like, what if they suck? Then all of a sudden, you whiff and you
unforeseen things reset the deck a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And
scandals, what have you.
And it's going to happen. It's going to happen more and more now in college football. But I do but last week looking at schedule, you'd say blah, and the 2 games that were supposed to be good were blah.
Yeah.
The games that were all supposed to be bad were all good. The Big 12 was on high alert all day long.
Right.
Kansas State almost lost to Tulane. Kansas did lose to Illinois. Oklahoma State is lucky to get out with their lives against Arkansas.
How much did they have to come back in that game? They were down by
They were
3
down
scores?
by 20. It was 21-7, right, Garrett?
I think so.
Yeah.
2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and it might have been 24-7 at one point or something like that. Like it was. They then came back and took the lead, and then Arkansas came back and tied it, and they went to overtime, and then overtime they both missed field goals in the first one, which
I love college football. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
one of these days, the most popular sport in our country will either Larry David and get rid of the kickers, or let's put some real effort into doing this.
Well, the highest paid player in the NFL is going to be a guy that can figure out how to kick right at the 20-yard line now.
Yeah.
And let it bounce.
Yeah.
So to get people to actually have to return it.
Yeah.
That new kickoff rule, just a side tangent, that new kickoff rule, early on, people were like, just kick it, just let them have it at the 30.
Yeah.
They don't care. You have to make it at like the 45 for them to actually want to return the football. But I digress. That being said, Iowa State hit a 54-yarder to walk it off.
With a freshman. But again, everybody was on high alert in the Big 12. Everybody was on high alert in the ACC. I mean, there was crazy stuff going on. The SEC didn't have a great day.
Oklahoma nearly lost to
Houston. Kentucky, my God, Liam Cohen's gone, and
they're bad.
And they were awful against South Carolina. I'm not trying to knock South Carolina, but Kentucky wasn't doing anything in that game with bringing in Brock Vandegrift, who couldn't win the job at Georgia. So but you thought well, a lot of people can't win the job at Georgia. He's probably going to be fine at Kentucky. Well, no, not yet. They brought in other transfer players. I mean, they had to make up for Ray Davis being gone, who was one of the better players in the SEC last year that maybe not a lot of people talk about.
Fair play. South Carolina might have the best defensive line in college football, or at least the best edge rushers. Dylan Stewart, I don't know if you've seen him. 6'6", 250. He's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft in 3 years.
Yeah,
he's unbelievable.
Yeah,
and so just fair play to, but Kentucky was bad, but. Fair play. South Carolina is really I think improved.
They have the number 1 guy on the freaks list who doesn't catch any passes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so
6'6",
weird.
250. Go look up for those of you who are watching, go look up his highlights. They're all over Twitter.
Yeah.
He's just dipping under people and bull rushing people and getting home.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
No, we will get your opinions later in the show about Colorado. We talked about it at length yesterday, so I kind of want to give a little time.
Ugh.
But it was a wild week, Royden, and Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. We had Coach Hammock on yesterday. I encourage people to go back and watch that interview. It was really funny. It was really great. We were not alone. He did 12 yesterday, so
this was NIU's head coach that was emotional on the sideline.
Yeah.
That was cool to see.
Yeah, and he's an alum, so it's just woven into his DNA, and so that was really cool. But there were so many cool things that happened. I haven't brought up Texas Tech yet, who got absolutely curb stomped by Washington State, and they've got Garrett brought this up yesterday, and then Craig brought it up later, but there was a noticeable quiet in Lubbock this offseason, and smart coaches, and Joey McGuire is a very smart coach.
Damn smart.
He's a very smart coach. Now, I know that Texas Tech fans in the current state disagree with me, but I'll tell you, he's a very smart guy. And it's one of those things that it's kind of an unspoken thing that coaches do is when you hear a coach not talk a lot about things after a year where they did talk about things, where there's a 180 on it, it's not because they decided to not talk. It's that they don't have anything to talk about. Let's not set unrealistic expectations again. And especially not with this group who they probably threw the thing that's really scary about, especially up front, which is where they're the worst. And these are the teams that struggle are mostly bad up front. Iowa wins because they're good up front. That's why they win, because they're good up front, and everything else doesn't matter as much because they can figure it out.
I mean, it's 6 guys that are going to go into the NFL draft and 2 tight ends that'll be at the very least XFL players.
Yeah, and they can't for whatever reason. Kirk Ferentz is hey, we got this. You could have a kid in Iowa that's a 5-star quarterback, and he's just throws the ball so much it irks me. I don't know. I don't.
Doesn't that hurt your shoulder?
I don't. Something about this kid. I don't like it. I saw him that he volunteers at animal shelters. I don't know how I feel about that. And, he's got a brother with a limp, and he always helps carry him into the thing. I don't know. He throws the ball a lot. Something shady. It's all an act, but
alms for the poor, not for me.
No, not at all. And, but they're not good up front right now. And that is the thing that when you're through spring and you're through all that, that's where the panic button lives, is where, we've got a great quarterback. He can really, whip the ball around the yard. Man, this running back we got, it's great. Man, we got some wide receivers who are really athletic. And then if they stop talking after that, then you're like, this is where they're.
What else?
Oh, yeah. And they're like, I mean, we've got some linemen that have some want to. You know, and you're like, yeah.
Our safeties try hard.
Yeah. So listen, you give me 11 of this guy, I'll win you a Big 12 championship. And you're like, probably not.
Look, my alma mater and Texas Tech are kind of in the same footing currently.
Mm-hmm.
But
your alma mater's Baylor for those who.
Yeah, exactly. And, a Baylor product as their head coach. We should have known that things were a little in disarray after the Abilene Christian game. Because Abilene spit the bit a little bit on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we should have just known. But, like, Baron Morton. 2 interceptions, threw the ball 58 times, had 300, what does it say? 23 yards. But the 2 picks, they need him to be transcendent.
Well, and look, Taj Brooks didn't play in that game, and they're going to need Taj Brooks to play if they're going to win.
Yeah.
Because basically the game was then put all on the quarterback. And in the one problem that they've had, really, look, their offense has been good in spite of the fact that their offensive line has regularly getting all their quarterbacks killed.
Yeah.
And now maybe that hasn't happened just yet, but they're still under duress. They're still not, able to sustain anything. So, yeah, Texas Tech is the team I am, when you look back on it, I'm not going to say as much because last year we kind of maybe got a little overhyped. And then once the Wyoming and Oregon happened, it was just, Wyoming was kind of a fluke because I'm not taking away from Oregon. I do think that Tech was looking ahead to Oregon so much that had the game's been flipped, it would have been better for Tech because then they would have gone to Wyoming and won that game because they wouldn't have been thinking about I can't wait for Oregon to come in here. I can't wait for Oregon to come in here. I can't wait for Oregon to come in here. And then the Oregon game happens. They had them right where they wanted them, and then it just didn't happen for them. And then I think you put a lot of eggs in that basket of, man, we really wanted to get Oregon. And then it happens again and again and again. So you're in your head. But I do think that, and Joey's strategy not to, run out a lot of hype was a smart one. But now we know why he would it probably didn't take that much convincing of hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. He's like, no, I agree because the
coaches
the
know their personnel.
Yeah. And the defense is very good either. So I think that, and it's unfortunate because I think Zach Kitley's a really good offensive coordinator, but he clearly has a hole in his swing when it comes to the offensive line. So they either need to change the philosophy up a little bit to where it fixes the offensive line more, and defensively they've got to do something all together different. So again, I don't think Joey's going to be in any kind of trouble necessarily, but he might be in that, well, maybe it's time for some new coordinators thing. And that's not unusual. So Mac Brown's dodged situations many times by just going, well, we'll just do new coordinators. Dave Aranda's done it a couple times here. And
firing coordinators is the same in the NFL where, firing coaches, so on and so forth. If for some reason buys you a little bit more time and cast the blame on fairly or unfairly on someone else, wherein, the NFL, they'll be like, well, either the coach or the coordinator is the coach or the GM is getting fired. One saves the other one or gives the other one a certain amount of time. But once you do that, the clock starts to then now the ire is cast on you. Dave Aranda out of firing coordinators. He can no longer fire any more coordinators from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't gotten there at Texas. McGuire hasn't gotten there at Texas Tech yet.
He hasn't had to do that yet.
He hadn't had to do that. But once you start, you set a timer.
Yeah.
Every single time.
So it either works or the next time you do it, you're like, okay, well, I think you get 2 coordinator changes, right? You get 2 most of the time, unless you've just been so bad. But if you have had some success.
4 total or 2 total?
So
1 defensive or 2 defensive, 2 offensive?
2 overhauls.
2 overhauls. 2 overhauls. So sometimes you don't need to change one coordinator because you're really good at that one thing.
Yeah.
So I think if it's like defense, like you might like if your offense is really good, but your defense is really bad, you might get like a run through of like 3 different coordinators, or like, one guy's a linebacker coach and you make him the defensive coordinator and that doesn't work out. And then the corner, like you flip it the next year, who calls the defensive plays, those kind of things that are more simple. But yeah, you can't, especially with buyouts, like you can't keep doing it because every coach has a buyout, whether the head coach or not. So especially now that the higher end assistant coaches are making $1 million a year in the SEC and between $500,000 and $800,000 most everywhere else. And up to $1 million, like it's getting crazy where, okay, well, we signed this guy to a 3-year contract. We don't want to have to pay, like we're going to have to sign another guy to a 3-year contract. But if we're going to fire this coach, we're going to have to pay him a $20 million buyout. Then we're going to have to pay these coordinators $2 million buyouts a piece, not to mention the buyouts all the way down the line, which are all 6 figures. And so you're talking about like A&M, it wasn't just $75 million for Jimbo. It was about $82 million for everybody else they had to let go as well. So
speaking of offensive coordinators, and this may be the last time that I say this year, probably not, because I think they are entertaining. Can we talk about Kansas?
Yeah, sure.
23-17. The whole season hinges on can Jalen Daniels, well, one, be healthy, but is he the Heisman contender that everybody thinks or has made him out to be? They just put up a stinker against Illinois. And then, this is anecdotally what I'm seeing on Twitter. Kansas fans not super happy with Mr. Grimes up there.
No.
But Jalen Daniels, 3 interceptions, only throws for 141 yards against. And again, stop me if you've heard this before. Brett Bielema winning football games.
Yeah.
It tends to just happen at places.
Yeah.
But I don't. Was that after when they'd been running sort of the spread offensive type, run and shoot at Kansas, was implementing that wide zone scheme?
Well, they were already running the wide zone.
Were they running the wide zone? I thought they were running sort of the old.
No, they're running the wide zone.
West Coast run and shoot.
But they were running the wide zone concepts. That's why they brought him in.
Well, then this completely is against the point. But
but did they bring in the right wide zone guy?
Yeah.
Andy Kotelnicki is probably on his way to being a head coach soon, and Jeff Grimes has probably stalled on that a little bit. I still think Jeff Grimes is a good coach, but he might not be. He might need a refresh in where some of his concepts are, because I think he's been.
It seems to me he's kind of been figured out.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's been figured out a little bit.
Right.
Which I think he's smart enough to refresh it, but can you refresh it in real time?
Yeah.
Right now?
Because Kansas wants to win right now.
They've got a great opportunity to win the Big 12 with the talent they have in that roster. But when you go out and you offensively play a game like that, it calls into question, can you really do this?
Yeah. And of course, Devin Neal is electric, 14 carries for 101. It just seems to me they're probably going to have to get him the ball a lot more. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where to look at it. I'm just saying that there was chatter on X, which is, a hell site. So take it for what it's worth. But there's chatter on X of Kansas fans not super happy with that hire. And so Baylor and Kansas were sort of kindred spirits.
Yeah.
For a weekend at least.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We're only going to do one more segment here because we have to stop early today because we've got to record Troy Calhoun.
Whatever.
Yeah. So Royden, my apologies that
I'm not here last week.
Yeah. And this week we've cut to this is your punishment. Troy Calhoun is bumping you.
Yeah. Well, sure.
But when we come back, we'll get Royden's thoughts on Colorado. And because I'm very curious to hear what you think on Colorado. And plus, hey, is USC maybe way better than we thought?
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe we've been criticizing Lincoln Riley too much for that brisket, and he finally made a good decision on.
Yeah, but it's still bad.
Yeah, it's still bad. Yeah,
it's horrendous.
It's awful.
And that picture is still up. Why haven't we deleted that?
And the ahi tuna or whatever he did, like it was like the tuna. Was it a fish that he
It
did?
was some sort of fish he butchered.
Some sort of fish that he also butchered. Which does he think that that's good, or is he being ironic? If he's being ironic, then
Very funny bit.
I'm in for it. But if he's like telling me that this is good, then
I feel like most coaches, except for Mike McDaniel of the Dolphins, are like post irony.
yeah.
So
Yeah, Mike Leach knew it.
yeah,
Mike McDaniel gets it.
Yeah, most are like post irony.
Yeah.
It's all sincerity when it comes to football coaches.
You know what the great thing about you know who Mike McDaniel's best friend from growing up is?
Dan Soder,
It's
right?
Dan Soder is one of the best stand-up comedians going right now. And you can tell that like Mike McDaniel in another life could have done it. Like he could have done it. And what's also brilliant about him is that he uses a lot of that press conference to like riff and do Mike Leach things like
to do
Mike
bits.
Leach did.
We're doing bits.
But also, like once you've got your bit in, a lot of times people are like walk out and be like, "Oh crap, I forgot to ask about this guy who's injured." Well, you know, tomorrow I guess.
Yeah, it's go to wake up. All right.
Yeah, is that your actual wake up alarm?
No, it's just I have an alarm that like it will rotate. Anyway, it is a reminder to get up and get moving.
All right,
because I don't go to work till 2. So
okay. All right. When we come back, what does Royden think of Colorado and USC? This is 365 Sports.
Fantasy Sports EVO, the next evolution of daily fantasy sports. Tired of traditional fantasy sports where you spend hours upon hours studying individual players? EVO's unique team-based platform makes it easier than ever for all sports fans to play. No need to know individual players. Just choose your contest, select your teams, and enjoy the game. Whether you access our website from a desktop, mobile device, or the app, the experience is the same. EVO is for all sports fans. Join Fantasy Sports EVO and experience the evolution.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Paul Catalina and Royden Ogletree. All right, let's get the Colorado out of your system first.
I will tell you this, but you've probably already seen this. Just real quick before we get to that, what do we think about Kevin Jennings just supplanting?
I'm not
Stone
after the first 2 weeks. I'm not surprised. Preston Stone has just not played well. He's just not played.
He's like the biggest recruit in SMU history, right?
Well,
besides in the 80s, but
he's definitely up there. But like when you watch him the first 2 games, he has no pocket like awareness whatsoever. He's constantly like a statue back there and getting hit. And he missed most of last season or all of last season with that injury. And I don't know if maybe you're still in your head and you just need to get hit a few more times to kind of come out of that.
Yeah.
But if you don't get adjusted now by losing your job, I don't know if you're going to get it back. But if you like last week, I watched them play BYU and they started out with Preston Stone out there, and literally every time they dropped back, Kalani Sitake like went all in on blitzing and lit him up. And as soon as they pulled him, they kind of changed their offense a little bit. But yeah, he's got some issues.
Well, yeah, he was able to. The backup was able to run. I watched a little bit of that game. He was able to run around a little bit, but it's just
it's
tough sledding for what was a 4-star, nearly 5-star quarterback.
Kevin Jennings didn't win the job.
No,
out of camp. So like. Then sometimes that's not necessarily indicative of who's the better quarterback. Sometimes you go with the guy who is the starter because they don't lose the job, based on injury, blah, 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 blah. But I'm a little surprised that they've kind of come to this.
Or you usually see it the opposite direction where you put the mobile guy out there first to try to help up with some of the deficiencies and kind of go from there. But they're doing it's crazy.
Yeah, it's strange.
SMU Twitter is not happy. That's all I'm saying. It just popped up on my timeline.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're not. Had to get out, had to come back and beat Nevada, and then they went out and lost to BYU. So the Mountain Time Zone not been good. I mean, granted that
for a number of reasons.
Yeah, for them. But Royden, your thoughts on Colorado?
Fake chains, fake diamonds. Like, what are we talking about? Cubic zirconium.
That's what they are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they look like they should be a great football team. And then you look at the net worth, and or the cost of the product. And yeah, it's about half of that.
Yeah.
They're like half a good football team or 1/3 of a good football team.
Yeah.
Their quarterback's really good. Travis Hunter is going to play football for a very, very long time in the NFL.
That's about it.
That is about it.
That's about it.
They can't block.
Yeah.
That game could have been 45-0. And then it almost felt like they kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit.
If Nebraska is a more veteran team, then it is 45-0.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of lucky Nebraska is new at this. If like the teams that aren't on their schedule, and let's take a look at their schedule.
I mean, hell, if Raiola had another year under his belt.
Yeah,
right. And he was
really
efficient. He 23 of 30, 185 yards, but it's not like they weren't like taking a bunch of chances with him, throwing it down the field. They wanted to run the ball. They had 35 carries, but it's just, pick 6 out of your own end zone for Sanders.
Okay.
And then he's like blaming the offensive line after the game. Fake team, fake football team.
Okay. Here are the teams on their schedule that just right now, based on the way that they run the ball, and what their philosophy is, that I could not pick Colorado in these games no matter where they were. If they were in Deion Sanders' actual living room, like I would not pick Colorado to win these games. At UCF, Kansas State, Arizona, Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State. All those teams run the ball really well. Really, really well. UCF has 3 guys who run the ball at you. Arizona, I don't think they can
That was the one I was kind of hesitant on.
Yeah, but they still have a really good quarterback and
one of the best wide receivers.
One of the best wide receivers in the country,
Yeah.
and maybe the best overall in the Big 12, in Tedero McMillan. So they're going to have to cover that guy, and we don't nobody's really have to make them cover people yet, but
I mean, that's one where I think you're going to see Travis Hunter on him,
yeah,
nonstop.
Yeah, no,
Guys,
he's got to shadow him.
I don't think Baylor's very good. And in fact, if you go on my timeline, I was having a crisis of confidence on Saturday. Also calling them sort of a fake football team. But the pressure that they were able to get in that football game makes me think that it might not be so bad against Colorado in Colorado if they're able to do that. Like, I kind of think that Dave Aranda, after they held him to 23 points for different reasons because Cam Rising went out, I was just kind of like, is this going to be like that close of a game?
To Baylor's defense's credit, one of those drives was about 4 yards because of a strip sack and a fumble.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, not to make this a Baylor thing, it was a Colorado bit. I just think that they can't get any pressure on any quarterback. You've built yourself into this whole why the Travis Hunter thing is a really cool story. He's going to play 110 snaps and whatever. That's not great, to be completely honest with you, when he's also your best defensive back.
Let me ask you this. When you have players like Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and heck, Will Shepard and LeJontay Wester and Jimmy Horn, thank you. Jimmy Horn, what does it do if you can't do anything about it? If it doesn't lead to wins? And I'll tell you, RJ Harvey, you know who I think is going to have a great game against Colorado is Dawson Pendergrass. If I was Jake Spavital, I'd just go to Dawson Pendergrass and
give it to the guys that run angry
and be like, hey, this is going to be your day. And then, when their tongues are hanging out of their mouth, go, all right, Richard Reese, zip. And DeQuan Finn, zip and go. And your goal, if you're Baylor next week against Colorado, should be to throw 25 passes or less. 25 passes or less. UCF will absolutely throw 20 passes total against Colorado at home. They will give the ball to RJ Harvey and Penny Boone and just go, go, go. Kansas State, Avery Johnson needs to work at his passing, but not that day because that was just going to be
Dylan Edwards.
Dylan Edwards is going to go feast. And not to mention DJ Giddens is awesome. He is awesome. Catching the ball out of the backfield too, which I don't think people give him enough credit for.
Look, there's games on the schedule that now look like they're winnable. I mean, Arizona didn't have a good weekend last weekend, but there's a scenario where Fafita just runs all over and they can't pressure the quarterback. and they can't cover in the back end, and he just throws for 300 yards or whatever. But Cincinnati, Texas Tech, but that might be it again for them if they don't win that Baylor game. And Colorado State's going to be another one to watch out. I don't know how good Colorado State is, but they'll be up for that game in
Fort Collins.
Fort Collins, thank you.
It's in Fort Collins.
Yeah, it is. So they'll be up for that game. But it can get ugly quick.
Okay, here's the other thing. The way that it looks to me right now, Colorado is going to be struggling to get to 5. But if they get to 5, it's going to have to be before the last 3. Because the last 3 are Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Okay, so let's just say they're 5 and 6 heading into that last week. And the thing that you can't do is stop the run. And who do you have to play?
Ollie Gordon.
It only could get worse, in my opinion, if it was Ashton Genty. And it's not that much where that's like, what would you rather die of? 2 bullet wounds or 3 bullet wounds? What?
Depends on where they're located.
Yeah.
I don't know. No TCU win has done more PR for a football team since 2014 down here on MLK.
Yeah.
That TCU win, which was kind of a fluke because TCU lost all of their players, set them up for an expectation that, and maybe they set themselves up too because of all the talk. It set them up for an expectation of this is what we're going to be. We're going to be ranked teams. It's a new day for Colorado football. We got probably the number one player in the draft, and my son, he's going to go number 1. You can't play the fight song over the loudspeakers. You're just going to play his song. I don't know how much of that rumor is true, but I like to believe I'd like to believe it's true. It's not true. I don't want to get sued over that. But the idea that we can do all this, but then not build up the offensive line through recruiting, not get those guys in there that are going to protect said blue chip players. And then, not for nothing, Shedeur Sanders threw his offensive line under the bus this weekend. Bad look, dude. Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's a tough look. It's like, how much was Raiola touched? And it's like, I don't know. He's also a freshman quarterback going out there and slinging the ball around to the tune of an 85% completion percentage. Yeah. He's making plays. I still think Shedeur Sanders is a good quarterback. I still think Travis Hunter is going to be a top 5 pick, whether it is to play both ways or just to play wide receiver, because he's an excellent wide receiver. Horn, awesome wide receiver. The rest, it does not matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. How many USC teams have we seen? Caleb Williams went through this last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
They couldn't block and they couldn't defend. And it's him running around in the backfield, and they only won 7 games.
Yeah.
I don't think they're even half as talented as that USC team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because Kalen Bullock was in the backfield making plays, and he's back there getting interceptions for the Texans this past weekend for that was at USC. There ain't anybody on the defensive side of the ball that I'm just scared of. Yeah. Besides Hunter, and he's playing 110 snaps a game.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And look, to wrap it up on USC, I think they're contenders in the Big Ten now. I mean, if that defense is legit as it looks,
right?
I think they're contenders. And
who did they get in as their defensive coordinator? That's
Danton Lynn, who was at UCLA.
Yeah.
And is a UCLA alum. And, chase that money. But also he's also chasing he's probably going to be a head coach in 2 years, because
if you can make USC's defense viable, then
it's not just viable. It was dominant at times. It's been dominant at times. Yeah. And you would not use the word dominant to describe the defenses that have been at USC under Lincoln Riley.
I think porous was probably the apt phrase.
Wet Kleenex.
Yeah.
So
I
decorative wrapping paper.
Decorative. Yeah.
It's a very decorative paper.
Also, just think that proves how good like Nussmeier actually is because he looked really good in that game. But the Miller Moss also is the poster child for, hey, stick around in a system for a minute.
Yeah.
And you might look great.
Well, that's how it used to be in college football. And I get
not
now,
to be old man that yells at cloud.
No, but but now, look, there are certain people who, if you're blocked, go. Like if you're, especially if you're a quarterback and you're a true freshman, the guy in front of you is a redshirt freshman, and that guy's Bryce Young or something, you probably have to go.
Right.
Like you're not going to play for 3 years. You may need to go find your other spot. You know, Ohio State's going to have this exact problem next season with Aaron Noland and Julian Sand and whoever they bring in this class. Like they're going to have that issue. Either Julian Sand or Aaron Noland is not going to be on the team in a year. Like they're going to go because they've got to go. They're going to go play. And they're all there at the same time. I get that. But if you're a quarterback who, you know, you go in as a true freshman and there's like a senior and then like a redshirt sophomore in front of you, but you may be able to beat out the redshirt sophomore in another couple years, like just ride it out, man. If you're Miller Moss and you're thinking like, okay, next year's going to be my time, and then Caleb Williams comes in, ride it out. Like
he'll be gone too. Yeah, he'll go number one.
You've got, you know.
This is apropos of nothing other than the fact that like USC always looks like, and these Oklahoma teams are the same way. USC looks like they just have the fastest people on the planet every year. It's awesome. And I think it might be the uniforms, but also on the relation to the uniforms. And I tweeted this, the big logo on the USC uniforms, atrocious. Hate it. Go away. I don't like that.
This has been Fashion Talk.
I don't know. It made me feel weird and I don't like it.
Joan Rivers and Isaac Mizrahi will be back here next week, but sitting in, Royden Ogletree, who's wearing a hoodie and a backwards cap, just told you what his fashion advice is.
For Big Ten uniforms, yeah. This is the equivalent of having a Big Ten patch on a Pac-12 team.
Yeah.
Stinks.
Royden, thank you so much. We do have to end early. We are about to do an interview with Troy Calhoun.
All right.
So get out of here. So guess what? Today, Troy Calhoun's on the show. We also have Ari Temkin on the show. And we have
John McClain
on the show. We have another cool guest, Ricky Thompson. Is on the show today. Love Ricky. Just grizzled. Been through it, man.
Best sideline reporter in the biz.
He absolutely is.
Yeah.
I will not. I know that I'm biased because I love the man to death, but I mean, you get a strong go the truth serum. Like a lot of times the sideline reporter is like, hey, everything's great. Pay no attention to the torn ACLs. Yeah. And Ricky will just be, guys, the defensive line is just terrible today.
Yeah, guys, that kick had no chance of going in.
Yeah. Look, I don't know why they're kicking against a wind like this. It's blowing right in my face. That was a bad decision. I'll tell them that when I'm walking in the locker room. Don't worry about it.
Been listening to him forever.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all coming up this afternoon on 365 Sports. Royden's out of here, and then Smokey's about to walk in the door. This is 365 Sports.